Hello everyone, and welcome to part 2 of this little series on bud switches. So if you missed the first episode, there'll be a link in the description to that one. Sort of explains the basics of bud switches. So in this episode we're going to be looking at the comparator buds, some more interesting kinds of buds, and then at the end some really compact forms of the bud switch. So yes, first things first, the comparator bud. This one is very useful because it doesn't just detect block updates. It can also detect certain data updates with anything a comparator can take an output from. So for example, this comparator here is the bud switch part. But if I had a chest here, you can see if I put an item in and out, that also updates the bud switch, which is very, very useful. This bud switch in particular uses the fact that comparators can't technically take an output from the chest that's locked with a block on top. So right now, this comparator is on even though it shouldn't be. So if I update it, it turns off. And then if I remove the block, the comparator should now be able to get an output. Because the block was removed here, and it was far enough away from the comparator not to update it, it doesn't realize until you give it another update. Another form of the comparator bud can use cauldrons and slime blocks, just like this. And yeah, works in pretty much the same way. You've got your cauldron used to be the power source for the comparator, but when it's moved away, the comparator doesn't realize. It still thinks the cauldron's there until you obviously give it an update. So yeah, so I just show you this. It's currently on. If I remove this, it's still on. Update it, it's off. So this is probably the most interesting form of the bud, and it's something I haven't really seen anywhere else on YouTube. I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person to discover this, but I haven't seen it very much, probably because it's massive and somewhat useless, but the point is, it's quite interesting. So you can see if I update, it's technically this rail which I'm updating, but you can see it's on, it's now off. Then I update it and it turns on. And this relies on an interesting fact that rails will only power up to, I think it's 9 blocks. Yeah, so 9 rail along. And unlike redstone dust, every single powered rail has the same block ID. Meaning that when I power this rail, the power should technically be able to reach this rail here, but it doesn't realize because none of these changed because of that powering. Therefore, this was not updated. But then when you do update it, it obviously switches. And then this is just a way to automatically reset it. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So now let's move on to the really compact forms of bud switches. So everyone knows this one. It's really, really small, and it's great because it gives a 1-tick pulse. So if I was to put a piston here, you can see it can turn into a T flip-flop or a toggle bud or whatever. So really useful. Before we had slime blocks, however, we had this design, and I can't remember who originally made this. But yeah, it's a really, really clever design. Once again, using diagonal powering, but using a minecart and a pressure plate. It's very clever. If anyone knows the person who originally discovered this, please let me know. That'd be really appreciated. So yeah. So now the forms of T-bud, which are very small. Obviously, you can use that one in a piston. But in some circumstances, you just want something like this, which doesn't have any slime blocks in it. So as you can see, once again using quasi-conductivity. Yeah, it's a pretty fast design. Oh, burning my wool. Yeah, it's very nice. But of course, before we had cauldrons and redstone blocks, there was a way of combining this bud switch here with a very, very small T flip-flop, that you can turn this into a T-bud. Stop burning my wool. Anyway, obviously I'm using a redstone block here, but that's just for an output, so yeah. It's pretty cool. Yeah, so that's pretty much all of the buds in the game. There is one more, which I know of, called the Magic Bud, which detects block updates in a whole column of blocks. But I figured that wasn't quite the same as these ones. These are sort of conventional bud switches, and I figured if you want a video on the Magic Bud, I can do one. There are loads on the internet if you want to find those. But I didn't feel it quite fit with this series. But anyway, if you enjoyed this two-part series, please leave a like on the video, subscribe. There's going to be lots of interesting redstone stuff coming. I've got a very, very, very cool waterfall door, which I've been excited to share with the community. Damn it, rain, go away. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.